you said the inequalities, and then you're a feminist because there's inequalities between men and women. You said that you're a feminist because women are discriminated against. So Parisa, to hear from you first, what are some of the inequalities that you're talking about?
I think a lot of the inequalities today, I mean, we can look at something more recent, like, for example, like Roe v. Wade being overturned. Like, women now don't even have the right to control what they do with their own body, and the government is telling them, but, like, something like that would never be instilled for, like, a man. Or, like, you can look at the pay gap. Like, there's a very obvious pay gap. A woman and a man can do the same job, and, like, most times a man is going to be paid a lot better. Like, there's just still a lot of inequalities, and I think that feminism aims to like get rid of these things, so that's why I consider myself a feminist.
I mean, okay, there's a couple things there. The wage gap's been debunked. There's no wage gap.
I mean, I would say that there is still, like, commonly, like, you would see, like, studies have shown that there is a wage gap in a lot of jobs.
Is that what your liberal professors tell you at Santa Barbara City College?
I've just seen things like rhetoric and literature that has proven that point. If you've seen other,
probably conducted by feminists that are they've already arrived at their conclusion.
I mean, what would you say about Roe v. Wade then? That
sure,
being
I'll adjust that. Well, you said that you're feminist because of inequality between men and women. Now, I don't really want to get into a discussion about abortion, but what I would say is that the abortion discussion has very little to do with equality between men and women, because men don't have an abortion right. Men don't have reproductive rights. So you could actually argue, because men don't have, I mean, this is getting a little bit very specific, but I could make the argument that equality between men and women on the abortion topic would be no women in the United States can get an abortion. That would make it equal between men and women, because a man has no reproductive rights when it comes to abortion. I'm not really interested in having an abortion debate right now, especially because we don't have much time left. But I don't think the abortion rights thing has really anything to do with equality between the sexes.
Well, I understand what you're saying in the sense that, like, men do not have, like, the whole, like, reproductive rights thing, but I'm just saying equality in the sense of, like, having an equal right to control what you do with your body, having an equal right that the law is not telling you what you can and cannot do. I just think...
Well, come to think of it, actually, it's difficult because obviously men don't get pregnant, so... Yeah. You know, it's just like a biological reality. What I will tell you, though, is when it comes to the government and your body, so this right here, Nick, if you can switch it to this camera, this is a draft registration card. Now, don't mind the colors, the bright colors, right? If I skip to this page here, so this is a draft registration card that only men in this country have to sign. It's called I don't know if you're familiar with the selective service system. So when it comes to men having control of their bodies, in the event of a war, bear in mind what's going on in Ukraine, bear in mind what's going on in the Middle East right now. This idea that men have control of their bodies, it's actually not entirely true. In the event of a draft, men would be forced to go into the trenches, into the front lines, and they wouldn't have a choice when it comes to that. Now, you don't see feminists in the streets really advocating for an equalization of the draft or getting rid of the selective service system or getting rid of male military conscription.
And I think that that is a problem with a lot of, like, modern day feminism, is that it doesn't focus on equalizing things, and it has, I'd say I have seen a shift, especially on, like, social media, where feminism has turned into kind of like, I don't know, more so elevating one gender over the other, or like trying to, like, point out differences. But I think that it is important for feminism to also focus on, like, these differences or, like, these problems that occur for men too. I would not say that that is something that it should not tackle.
Right, sure. I guess I'm it's not going to be productive to have a conversation on abortion, but again, I've just failed to see when it comes to inequality. So typically when you think of inequality, it would be something like some right or privilege that men have that women don't, but because men don't have any abortion rights because they can't have children, I don't think it's it's a woman's rights issue, but I don't think it's a inequality issue.
I just personally see it as that because I see it as an unequal sense of control over your body, because although like the war draft, like you bring that up, which is a great point, and I do think that is that does need to be addressed. I think that the lack of control that not allowing abortion gives to women is very, very different than that, because like in the event of a war, like that's a lot less likely than like a woman needing an abortion for like any reason. I think that like the case of a woman needing an abortion is a lot more like common, just for like right now. I mean, like if you count like what's going on in Ukraine, obviously, but like I'm just saying it's not like every single year that there's a new war happening.
I mean, we are every day. I would argue
Europe's been at war for years.
But there hasn't been a draft in 50 years.
Yeah.
So.
There's no active.
Okay, but there are men that would, in the Vietnam War, there are men that would still be, I see Madison, there are men that would still be alive today had they not been drafted. There are men that are, there are men that died that would still be alive today had they not been drafted. There are men that are alive today that were drafted that are dealing with severe, like either they were a casualty of war, so they had an injury, PTSD.
Don't you think women get PTSD from having a baby they don't want to have?
Yeah, but are you really comparing getting an abortion to the PTSD that soldiers experience from war?
Well, you're comparing
PTSD.
getting an abortion to the draft.
Getting drafted.
I would argue that throughout human history, male military conscription is a bigger gender grievance than certainly the abortion grievance.
Since the beginning of time, it has always been men go to war, women stay home and take care of the family and kids.
Yeah, it's bad. We're not saying it's not bad, but it's not like it's not the same.
So are you saying that forced male military conscription is not as bad as some women in some states?
It's bad. I'm not saying it's not bad.
No, but
that's not really saying that it's not necessarily comparable, which I do kind of see, because it's like it's not necessarily talking about like the same type of like right to do something, because one of them is saying like in the event that like there is a war, like men will be drafted, which obviously is still like a lack of control, but the other is saying like in your day-to-day life, like you will not have the ability to do this, like because like we're not giving you the right, like it's different.
I see what you're saying. Well, what I would say is, while currently here in the United States there hasn't been a draft in a long time, every single male in this country, once they turn 18, they have to register with the Selective Service. So that's a biased gender requirement that men have to do that women don't. Granted, it's rather easy to register. However, as a man, if you don't register, technically it's a felony. You can be imprisoned for up to 5. I don't want to misquote. It's either 5 or 10 years. I think it's probably 5 years. You can get a fine of $250,000. If you don't register for the Selective Service, hold on, it says it here. Let me read it. I'm going to read it just because I don't want to misquote anything. Okay. Let's see, hold on. What happens if I don't register? Not registering is a felony. Young men convicted of failure to register may be fined up to $250,000, imprisoned for up to 5 years, or both. In addition to being subject to prosecution, failure to register may cause you to permanently forfeit eligibility for certain benefits. Federal and many state laws require registration age men to be registered with selective service to remain eligible for applying for the following benefits. So as a guy, if you don't register for the selective service, it might bar you for life from receiving student financial aid, certain government jobs, government employment, employment with the U.S. Postal Service, job training, and U.S. citizenship for male immigrants.
Ninja Smoke donated $99. Men have no choice in war.
That's true.